Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Maples,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you. Next item is comments from the public. Will we be having any comments from the public? All right, moving on then. We have no old business. We'll be moving to new business. Resolution R-24-20, a resolution to authorize the purchase of a mini excavator for the Water Services Department. Director of Water Services, Steve Smith, will make comments. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. How are you guys doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Just give me a second here, get my paperwork out. As you're aware, this is for a new Caterpillar Model 305-07 LC compact excavator. The mini excavator will be used for the purpose of repairing water mains, installing water taps and mains, as well as other projects throughout the city. The Water Department staff has historically repaired and installed repaired most water taps and mains used throughout the community, and purchasing the mini excavator will allow them to complete projects at a more efficient rate. The city had sought quotes from 5 makers/suppliers of mini excavators with full equipment Caterpillar 305-07 LC model, meeting all specs and being the least expensive. Staff is recommending that the mayor be authorized to direct the finance director to issue a purchase order to Full Equipment, Chanute, Kansas, in the amount of $82,668.53 for the purchase of one new Caterpillar Model 305-07 LC compact excavator with accessories. And I will answer any questions you may have.
What have we used before?
Well, we share some. There are a few in the city, but we always have to juggle jobs around to borrow one. One's over at Public Service. There's one that Stormwater uses, and then there's one that Electric uses. And so whichever one we can get, we'll use. But when we're doing like water line projects that are long-term and stuff like that, that really becomes a big hassle at that point.
So that's become an issue in the past?
It has. And so then we end up using backhoes, but the problem with the backhoes is they tear up the yards quite a bit because we're moving all the lines from under streets into the yards so that it's not tearing up the streets if there are leaks or any issues arise.
I did see there was a check in the box, new appropriation.
Yes, sir.
Necessary. So where's the money coming from?
The money's coming from capital funds.
Yeah, it was in the budget for this year.
It's been budgeted for the last 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You know, the
All
challenge
right.
is,
I'm just curious when it said new appropriation
Sure.
required. Okay.
Yes, sir.
yeah, the challenge is, no pun intending, we're treading water
Yeah.
right now. We need to get ahead of
Okay.
it, and having the proper equipment will make us more efficient and quicker at repairing and fixing these things.
And it does allow us to do, you know, when we have equipment like this, we're able to do jobs more in-house, which ends up saving the city money over long-term other than having to contract it out to contractors because we don't have the equipment to do it.
Do we maintain our own equipment?
Yes.
Do we maintain those ourselves, or do we have to contract it out?
Our equipment,
Yeah.
normally we maintain it ourselves unless it's just something that they can't fix and then we, you know, have to send them in to get them repaired.
Okay, so there's no significant strings attached to this purchase then?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And it does have a 2-year warranty on it, so, and they're out of Chanute and they do the repairs up there, so.
I had a question. Are you going to buy a separate trailer
Yes.
just for this, or
Yes.
share? Is that?
It's a separate trailer. None of them really offer trailers with them. I checked that. The only one that could give me a trailer price was Bobcat, but their trailer was significantly higher than the one I'm going to go with.
Okay. That's all I
About
had.
double the price, actually.
And all your bids received? were equal across the board as far as what
Models.
as far as what they spec'd and everything.
Correct.
Okay.
They were all equal as far as, within a few horsepowers of each other, because
Okay.
nothing's exactly the same.
Right.
And then they all had the same attachments.
Okay, all right.
So-
And so you're pleased with this that you've picked out? I know it's the lower one, but,
Yes.
you want to make sure that you believe it will be the one for you.
Yes, I believe so. There was one that was a couple thousand higher, which had a lot nicer cab, but we're not in it for the comfort. We're in it to get the job done, so.
Okay, yeah. Good point, Steve. Okay.
So, any more questions?
If there's none other, I will move to approve Resolution R-24-20 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples to approve Resolution R-24-20 as presented. Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards. Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
Steve, for your work on that.
Next item is Resolution R-24-21, a resolution to authorize the execution of a real estate purchase agreement between the City of Coffeyville and MTI Greenhouse Solutions LLC. Director of Building Inspections, Planning and Zoning Services, Matt Conger, will make comment.
Good evening, Mayor Commissioner.
Good evening.
As you know, we recently adopted a land bank. The first building that anybody had interest in was our old fire station, 701 South Union Street. We had 2 applicants. I took it before the Planning Commission last Tuesday. They both recommended MTI's proposal be awarded. Their plan is to completely remodel the building for some office space and second floor living. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I've also brought Steve in with MTI if you'd like to speak with him a little bit about the project.
Yeah, Steve, would you like to make any comments?
Only bad questions.
Timeline. If approved, what's your timeline?
We would want to start sometime in the summer, this coming summer.
Could you, I do have a question, if you could come up to the podium. Give a 2 or 3 minute explanation of what is MTI Greenhouse Solutions.
It's a long story.
Well,
You
just-
want it in 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you all for having me here, and thank you for having a warm reception. Not every time you go before the city council, it's a warm meeting, but thank you for that. For 25 years, I've remodeled Dairy Queens, which brought me to southeast Kansas. So if there's a Dairy Queen in southeast Kansas, I've touched it or worked on it. And we remodeled the one in Independence, which brought us here to this part of the world. Southeast Kansas has got good people. It's got great cities. It seems to me to be, I live in Northwest Arkansas, but it seems to me that it's very progressive. People are wanting to do things. When you go to Northwest Arkansas, it's, you got to stand in line and tow line. So we feel like point of entry is a lot better in Southeast Kansas than where I'm from in Northwest Arkansas. So I've been in construction business forever. That's what I grew up in. My dad was a drywall finisher. I'm a graduate from the University of Arkansas in agriculture business. So we saw a trend in the marketplace for greenhouses in the last 2 years. So we started going out to different FFA chapters, different high schools, and that's what we do. We'll build 7 or 8 in Kansas this year, another 8 or 10 in Missouri, but we want to put it here in Coffeyville. And so we work with a company out of California, which to do a flatbed trailer, talking about trailers, they charge $8,000 just to bring the material to site. So one of the things that we've talked with city manager and staff about is being able to bring it in on rail, being able to distribute it out of here. The other thing that I have, I met with Coffeyville Community College, and one of the things that really interests me about them is the fact of their electrician and their building program that they have. These greenhouses nowadays are state-of-the-art. They're, I don't know all the ins and outs about the computers, but they're all computerized. They're shades, they water, you never have to hoe the garden anymore, so but it's real, they're fancy, and it's good for these schools, but that's what we do. And so our intention over here was the housing, apartment housing is always a need. I have apartments in Independence that we've renovated, but on the first floor to use that for the greenhouse. Business, work with the technologies, what's coming about, and being able to use the rail that you have here to offset some of our costs coming in. So, questions? We're adding two things together. Yes, okay.
I noticed, well, Commissioner Maples and I, we got on your website.
Okay.
And we looked, and I
My
saw
daughter
you did-
built that.
Good job. We noticed, yes, when you just said, but you did Dairy Queens, I thought you do a little more than Dairy Queens.
Yes.
And we saw the Indie Brew Works building.
Yes.
So you did that entire building, or?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So
It
that
looked very
just
nice.
lets the people know what you have done and what you're capable of doing.
I don't know, sir, if you've seen those some of you have been in the building, Indie Brew Works, maybe you haven't, but that building was set up for condemnation. We came in, paid the taxes off, and spent 2 years bringing it up to where it is. It's a really cool building. And upstairs is modern, downstairs took the same feel that the building was when it was built over 100 years ago, so.
Nice. Yes. No, you did very good on that, so.
You mentioned living spaces on the second floor.
Here, or in Independence?
Was that was?
Yes, that we have 9 apartments on the second floor.
In Independence.
In
Independence,
okay.
yes, sir.
All right, so there's no plan for that in this building,
Yes,
There.
okay?
yes. There is.
Will there be any, Tim, will there be any zoning issues there? Business and then living spaces above?
I don't think so, Matt. Do you-
No, that's not. Not on the second floor.
Okay,
There is approximately 2,400 square feet on the second floor. So my wife and I we're also building one in Cassville, Missouri, another small town that needs affordable living space. But the 2-bedroom apartments, I think we can haven't been in it, gone through all the mechanicals yet or anything, but I do think there could be as many as 7 or 8 up there, apartments. And we may have to ask for a conditional use to have entrance and some down below, but.
That's great. That's great. Okay, if there's no further questions, I welcome you to Coffeyville by moving to approve.
Okay, you guys have got to be harder than this, because
Moving to approve Resolution R-24-21 as presented.
I'll second.
I hope to make you proud.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll
vote, hang on.
Okay.
and I was particularly impressed with the list of the number of employees over time.
Yes, sir.
You like that?
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maples to approve Resolution R-24-21 as presented. Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to
Thank you, guys.
Coffeyville.
Hey, good to be here. And I need to drive home.
Next item is Resolution R-24-22, a resolution to express support for an application submission from MBL Development to Kansas Housing Resources Corporation for the Meadowlark Senior Villas. Director of Housing, Charlotte Brown, and City Manager Tim Wilson will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening.
Commissioners.
While I have her here, I just wanted to introduce you guys to Cynthia Decker. She's our new housing coordinator. So all the signs you see everywhere, online, everything, she's responsible for. So she's really kicked off our half-cent sales tax program. It's been very positive.
She
So
came from Arizona, so we added one to our population.
Okay.
yeah,
We'll do it one at a time.
Right, welcome.
Welcome to the
Welcome.
city.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, MBL Development. Meadowlark Senior Villas, this is a picture of a finished one right now.
That's nice.
Yeah. Right now in Parsons, it's under construction. In a couple months, it should be finished. You'll see some pictures in a minute. But just to let you know that they have been around, there's about 27 family developments and senior developments in Missouri. And then there's a senior development that just started in Olathe. And then one, of course, in Parsons, that's Leeward Villas. If you guys want to go down and look at them, they're right behind Brahms. They're huge. You can't miss them. And then they've also got 2 senior developments in Iowa. They are a member of the Kansas Housing Association, and they say on all of them, once they're built within 48 hours, they reach maximum occupancy. And most all of them have, after they reach capacity, 100 to 170 on a waiting list. So I've called a couple of them, and they don't have any problems with management. They have people come, live there, and manage the apartments as well.
Nice.
Especially if
That's
it's
good.
mixed with this low-income housing tax credit grant. They will monitor everything, so the city of Coffeyville doesn't even have to monitor that. So the Meadowlark Villas, the reason why we're here tonight is because we want to ask the commission's blessing for $80,000. And it sounds like a lot, but to break it down, our half-cent sales tax is $1,500 per door. There's going to be 38 doors, and that's $57,000. That's what we have so far for the incentive that we've promised. In-kind contribution for the grant, for the low-income housing taxing grant, in-kind means you can offer any kind of services in lieu of payment, which is the building permit fees, and it says $12,000, but as of this afternoon, Matt gave me an updated figure, and it's $14,000. So that's actually won't be a check written. It'll be just in kind. So the approval of the remaining is actually about $9,000 on top of the $57,000 is what we'll need. We have $45,000 last year that wasn't used with this same tax incentive. So it's at $90,000 now that we have. The application is due on May 10th, and they'll award it in July. And then we've talked with MBL, and they said that it'll be about 3 months out by the time they get everything ready. So you're looking at next year doing even using that $45,000. So really, we're only going to be about $9,000 into next year. So we do have it in the budget. Okay, now that I got that out. So again, there's 38 units. They are going to be mixed and market rate units. They're all 2-bedroom, 1 bath. They all have in-unit laundry hookups. They all have front and private rear patio areas for each residence, and they all have access to 1 carport covered, so if they have cars. And then these pictures right here are what's under construction in Parsons, just taken on Monday. So the furnished community building is a huge asset for them, and the reason why they are at maximum occupancy is because they have on site every week a doctor, dentist, barber, and beautician. So that way people that are limited with transportation, they have it right there. They also have a complete computer area, exercise room, kitchen area, sun porch, meeting room, right there in that building. So your left picture, that's a community building. And they're all going to be brick, just like that community building. They're just not brick now. So here's finished. This is at Deerbrook in Missouri. So you can see what they're going to look like, and they all look the same. The grounds are always kept immaculate like that on the pictures that I've seen. So also I thought it was important to note that Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe of Missouri had some really positive things to say. They said that they keep the place very nice and clean, and it's appealing to folks who come here. It's got a homey feeling, and the developer's done a great job, and the community has really embraced what this can do for the city. So I thought that was pretty positive to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the development plan, what it's going to look like here in Coffeyville on Edgewood and Grandview Avenue. There's 5 acres there in front of the church.
That's right behind your house, Mayor.
It is.
You'll be able to go over there and see the doctor.
I mean, let's go back to these pretty pictures. No, I'm just kidding. So, but
Good.
yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Alex needed friends, so we wanted to find him some, but
What's that, what's that
Okay, so
street
here
there?
are, what, this one?
Yeah, what street is
That's
that?
it.
I
This
can't-
is Edgewood.
Okay.
And that's Grandview.
Okay.
Yes.
So are we going to have to extend Grandview?
Yeah.
They will,
They will,
okay.
our total cost in this is going to be $80,000.
Okay.
And on a $6.5 million project, and, you know, the point is, we have a lack of housing in every stage of life in Coffeyville. So,
Right.
you know, starter home, luxury home, and certainly in this area. So this will be 62 and up, and, you know, that they'll be fully occupied before they're finished, and there'll be a waiting list. So that this will fill a big need for a hole that we have in Coffeyville. So I'm fully behind this project.
And out of 6,900 adults here, we've got about 1,680 seniors. So
Yeah.
Okay.
we've got a huge need.
And that's, yes, and it's important that we offer that for that group. Yeah,
I think the
people-
rent is in the 600 to 900 range.
Okay,
Okay.
correct. Right.
Just
sure
as a
it is.
side note, in commissioner comments later, I'm going to bring up a topic that people that live on Edgewood have brought up to me. If you look in the very top right corner, that is a little back way entrance there to the bowling alley and the bar up there, and I'm going to be discussing that later. So now that I see that this development is going to be there,
I can leave that up there and Chris can put it back up
yeah,
for you. if
we
you
may
it.
need to. Well, I'll bring it up later, but we need this kind of development in our town.
So Gibson, in the past, it was meant, it dead-ended right there on the bottom of the screen. It was meant to be a through street to Grandview. And it's there, finished up to a point, and it kind of just
Correct.
ends. So is something going to be done in that area? Just leave it as is? Is there going to be a fence on the south end and block that off? Or what was the plan for that?
I don't know that they have an exact plan for that. That section of street has been vacated for quite some time, since the church has owned the whole area. So they have the option to fence it off if they wanted to, but right now I think it has kind of your standard guardrail style into it. We could look at potentially making it more of a cul-de-sac in the future, just to enable the turnarounds for any sort of fire.
It seems a little surprising to me, they wouldn't take the footprint of that development, turn it 180 degrees, and instead of having for them to have the added expense of extending Grandview, have their entrance right there on Gibson,
We discussed multiple options on how they wanted to do it.
and they want it this way.
They want it this way. They actually originally wanted to come, instead of connecting to Edgewood, connecting to, what is that? To the west, I can't remember which street it is off the top of my head. Westwood, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They originally were going to want to kind of go towards Westwood, but they didn't want it any sort of like through avenue, just to keep traffic out. So they
Okay.
wanted it to be an enclosed
Enclosed.
neighborhood.
And I think the church owns other lots on Westwood as well,
Yes.
so.
Okay. Well, if that's what they want, and they're paying for it, God bless them.
Any other
Who am I to
questions?
be
Okay.
picky?
Any other questions from commissioners for?
No? Go for it.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I will move to approve Resolution R-24-22 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Maples, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to approve Resolution R-24-22 as presented. Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Next item is discussion and action to make an appointment to the Planning Commission. City Clerk Melissa Carter will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, the 7-member Planning Commission has 2 unfinished term openings for residents that live outside but within 3 miles of the city limits, expiration dates of 1/1/25 and 1/1/26. Notice of the board openings were placed on the city's website, Facebook page, and Channel 13. I received one application from Max Williams, who meets the living outside the city limits within the 3 miles. Max has previously served on the Planning Commission, and he is here in attendance tonight if you have any questions for him.
Okay. Anything you want to say, Max? Come on.
Well, I guess for experience, I've got 20 years' experience on the planning and zoning. I went off a couple of years ago and thought I'd get somebody else from outside the 3-mile radius. Nobody applied. I feel like that these people need representation, so that's the reason I've applied. That's about all I can say. Like I say, I know what it's all about. I understand it. Would appreciate your confidence in me.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. And we thank you
Thank
for
you.
stepping up to serve. We appreciate it.
We can't make these appointments in perpetuity, but we thank you for sticking with it.
I'll move to appoint Max Williams to the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Hendricks, seconded by Vice Mayor Faulkner to appoint Max Williams to the Planning Commission for a term expiring January 1st, 2026. Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
All right, next item is a discussion on street projects, and Director of Public Works, Thomas Osborne, will make comments and answer questions.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
So what I'm going to do is just kind of walk through a very brief history on what streets has been in the past, and especially focus on the last 10 years with the sales tax that was added approximately 10 years ago, and then kind of go into the future of what we kind of are looking at right now. I would like to say we have a full 10-year plan in place. Unfortunately, we don't. We are working towards making sure that we can get those full 10 years put together more solid. So just a quick start. We do have 108 miles total of streets in the city of Coffeyville. 7 of those are on the highway. That is equivalent to 232 lane miles of streets throughout the populous area. Kind of, again, the brief history. For years and years, Squeaky Wheel got the grease, so we did an overlay. All those overlays, as you can see in the left top hand corner there, stacked up, and then you get the ponding because we literally changed the direction of the intersection for drainage. In these last 10 years, we have focused a lot on intersections and correcting that drainage. One of our pride and joys that you could say would be the one there at 10th and Elm. It's a beautiful concrete intersection with brick sidewalks. That was the first time we did the stamped brick red sidewalks, and we actually had people trying to pull bricks out of the crossings shortly after they were put in. So they look really, really well. Of course, it all boils down to the right treatment at the right time and taking the proper steps when you're looking at a street and street infrastructure. Unfortunately, over the years, things were kind of lax. Coffeyville streets are about there. So end of life, pretty much we're striving to keep things somewhat band-aided together, and in some cases still failing that because just stuff literally does not stay in the holes that are that bad. So that's, like I said, that's kind of where streets are. The optimal thing would be to hit streets early on and keep that, and so it looks like a sawtooth. I couldn't get the graphic to work, but it would look like a sawtooth at the top, and it would stay, keep your streets going. And that's really what we're focusing on, is making sure to not only how we're going to address the failure of the streets, but also make sure we're maintaining those streets while we continue to increase the good streets in town by the replacements, because for the most part, probably a good 80% of our streets are at that point of they need a major overhaul, or reconstruction. So here's some numbers just to give you some ideas on costs. You know, that's the budget for the half-cent or the full-cent sales tax per year. As you can see there, some of your reconstruction costs, you're only going to get about 1.36 miles if you use the entire budget. So if you did that for the entire 108 miles, it's going to take a very, very long time. And you'll never catch up because you spent all your money to build the new street, and your old streets by 10 years, 15 years down the road are going to start having the same problems that we are now. So again, it all boils down to the right treatment at the right time, and that's where you can definitely see that break there, where you go from reconstruction to your preservation acts. Your preservation acts are significantly cheaper. They may have to happen more often. However, they extend that life of the road
Significant.
almost in perpetuity as long as you continue to use them and keep them up. And of course, so that's where we want to develop a preservation toolbox and make sure that we use everything in that toolbox to make sure that the monies that were spent on the streets are used wisely, as well as in the future we can continue to add new streets. And so here's kind of the three mains that we've been using in the past. Because our streets were in such dire straits, there's not a lot you can really do to Band-Aid over them. So you got your asphalt cold patch, your crack seal, and your surface seals. Those are the three main things. I'll kind of go through all of them in a little, just briefly as well. But we're going to add an asphalt rejuvenator because we have started adding a few streets in the last 8 to 10 years that are brand new streets. And so we want to start now that process that should have been started from the beginning and make sure that we keep those streets in good shape. Of course, the first thing is your asphalt cold patch. You see the truck driving around, dump it out, they pack it in. That's for your potholes. It's not a permanent fix by itself. We actually have a polymer that's been developed that we're going to try out that makes it more of a permanent patch fix. It's not cheap, but we were able to get them to do a sample size so that we can try it without going full blown on it.
We have 15 gallons of it that we're going to give the world, and it's the same basic idea as the cold patch, only you can put aggregate in the hole, you put the polymer over it, give it 30 minutes, open it up. It's supposed to be 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. So significant improvement, and we are continually looking out there. There's technology changing throughout. A lot of rodent technology really has not changed, but we are always looking at what is being changed and what we can do and try to use those and work those into our budgets and work those into our plans. There we go. So of course you got your crack seal. Your crack seal is just going to be able to kind of keep the water from getting in the cracks. This is actually our own crack seal teams. We do have our own pot that we can do so a lot of this in-house as we have labor available. It just, again, it kind of lowers your maintenance costs a little bit. It keeps the water from getting into the base, and as soon as the water gets to the base, that's when you start really seeing the issues on your streets. Of course, it's not the fix for everything. You know, you have some of those streets that would look like that if that's what you did to try to fill all those cracks. So that doesn't work. And so that's where we found about going on 11 years ago, we found a product called Modified Aggregate Quitset, and it is a surface seal. It's a complete surface seal. It covers the whole street, and as you can see in the background, that is actually Overlook when it was done 11 years ago. It looks almost like a brand new street. It's not. It's $8 a square foot compared to, or $8 a square yard compared to 200 and something. So significantly less cost, and it does a very good job. And the right side there, you can see that is the corner of Overlook and Midland. As you can see there, that surface there in that picture is 2 years old. You can see the surface is still pretty good. Before, Overlook looked just like the left side in Midland. Okay, the picture didn't come through, unfortunately. So go out and look. It still looks really good, except Midland looks like gravel now. So there you can see the reflective cracks of where Overlook used to look kind of alligator, a lot more alligator, but it's still sealed up and doing a really good job. You can see those, but it's not major cracks like there were there before. Unfortunately, like I said, the picture's not showing, but the Midland section is gravel at this point.
On Overlook, the length of Overlook from 8th to 1st, a lot of this quickset is now coming up.
Some of it, yeah, in spots where it's delaminated for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why, but it's something was on the street that couldn't get cleaned off, or in some spill from who knows when. Asphalt's one of those tricky things that if things aren't just right chemically, it doesn't like to work well with just about anything else. So.
Well, and you mentioned before that the base isn't great on
Yep.
Overlook, so I've wondered how much damage is caused by the heavy trash trucks, especially on a street like this
So
where you do have
Overlook was built. It was an old county line road,
Yep.
so it's narrow. There's no curb and gutters, so your compaction when you go to build a asphalt street over top of it is very minimal. You can never compact the edges unless you put a gutter line or something there to make sure that it's compacted properly. And so, I think, 2-3 inches on dirt, maybe?
Three tops asphalt.
3 inches asphalt on dirt. It's not the correct way to build a street. Unfortunately, a lot of the west side of Coffeyville was built that way.
Like that.
So we've done a few streets on that side of town where we've rebuilt and made them to where they're significantly better, and we'll continue on. So,
Not to interrupt, but so much like the
I was told I had to be fast, I'm sorry.
wanted discussion. So much like the pothole material, Max has improved as well. So it's now the version is pressure pave.
Yeah,
And
that's
it,
what we're just getting into
there
here.
you go then.
Yeah, so pressure pave, so what we put on Overlook was called Flex Seal and Modified Aggregate Quickset, or MAX. They've now developed a new system called pressure pave, and that pressure pave adds another 5 to 7 years of life, and it is basically a crack seal and a surface seal combination. So it's one pass, one machine, goes over the street, forces crack seal material into all the cracks, including the hairline ones, as well as giving you depending on the surface. So artillery roads, we look at a 3/8 inch new wear surface. Kind of your residential, it's only a 1/4 inch. So it doesn't affect the drainage like it does with a normal overlay.
And what's the cost on it roughly for a square yard? Max is $8, you said.
So that's, the pressure paved numbers is the 824
Okay.
square yard.
And
And
that's
that's roughly so for a standard city street, $8.25 is a linear foot is kind of the standard.
okay.
And so it's a lot better. They've just got this really developed. They have a lot of, so pressure pave is proprietary. Nobody else has it. There's stuff that's similar to it. One thing we like with Donaldson, who we use for that, and Sole Source, they have their own quarry, and they have their own asphalt mixing machines, and they do their own chemical analysis. And so their rock and their asphalt and their crack seal all chemically function together, versus if you get crack seal from here and asphalt from here and rock from here, and then it's a totally different process. And the reactivity of all the chemicals involved totally changed the outcome. So they control all of it from start to finish, so it's a lot better product that you can get versus when you're trying to kind of outsource it. And so they do have, and we've used them as sole source in the past, and we probably will continue to do so in the future. We've had really good, like I said, there's been streets that should have been, they should be gravel at this point, and they're still held together. So and that was on, they looked at those streets when we asked them, say, we want to do this street, and they said, I might get you 5 years. We're talking 11 years at this point on Overlook, and Overlook is one of the ones that we wanted to try, because it was going to be, if you can do something with this, you got something, and you got a customer in Coffeyville. So let's continue on there.
What would it, I'm probably asking an impossible question, but what would it take to install drainage systems along the street there instead of the ditches that are there now?
It'd be a very significant cost. I would not recommend to install a draining system. I would recommend rollback curbing. That gives you your control for your compaction, so you can have a good asphalt street. If you want to go asphalt, which if you look at those numbers, I'll pull those numbers up and I'll talk a little more about. If you look at the numbers for a new construction asphalt street, 6-inch base, 2-inch top, on top of 6-inch gravel, is roughly $215. That's a 7 to 10 year lifespan before you got to do something with it, whether that's a surface seal, fog seal, rejuvenate, or something with it. For concrete, it's $220. I don't touch it for at least 20 years. So that's the unfortunate thing, is that where we're at, we have to get asphalt from so far away. They have to haul it from so far. The cost difference between asphalt and concrete is virtually negligible, to where it actually makes more sense to go ahead and spend that extra $5, $6 a square yard to have something that's going to last 3 times, 4 times
I
lot
think
longer.
concrete streets
Yeah.
last 30
Yeah.
plus years most of the time.
Well, and the big trucks don't tear it up.
Yeah, the big trucks don't tear it up either, that's right. So,
That's right.
okay, so this is going into the last 10 years. This is a map that shows the reconstruction and the preservation efforts put throughout the city of Coffeyville. You can see that pretty much every street in town has been touched. A majority, vast majority. The streets that haven't been touched are some of those streets where you can do whatever you want and it's not gonna hold, it's not gonna take. They are truly at that point of past failure and need to be completely rebuilt. And so that's one of the things that we are struggling with of, okay, this needs to be rebuilt. How can we keep this at least drivable? And so some of those things, it might be that we turn to, an asphalt ripper where we come in and we rip it down to where it's basically gravel, but now we can maintain it. Your drive is smooth, but it's millings so that you don't have the dust and debris that you would with the standard gravel street. So we're looking at some of those options to be able to kind of bridge our way to, make do until we can get it actually fixed and put the proper fix in place. So that you can still have a street, still have access and get to and from without tearing up vehicles. So like I said, anything that's not, other than, there's some streets on the east side, but that's where we pulled away from there because of with the flood in '07 and everything is, all the buildings, a lot of them are gone, and they're still, okay, what, are we gonna build super blocks? Are we gonna build big parks? What's gonna be there? So we didn't wanna sit there and put money into some of those streets. We're still doing you can see we did the thoroughfares, so you got 4th, 5th, 1st, and 8th, and of course the highway. And Sunflower, that we've kind of done some stuff with. Sunflower is in very dire shape due to all the trash trucks, or not trash trucks, refinery, trucking, all the gas equipment that's going in and out there, so.
Where's Buckeye on the list?
For getting ready to start?
Yeah.
The projects are coming up,
Coming out, okay, getting ahead of you, thank you.
So, of course, like I said, just kind of going through some of the things. So this is the crack seal map. Anything in blue has been crack sealed. Anything in red was beyond crack seal. I mean, you're going to look like you just painted the whole street with crack seal. And of course, green was in the condition that it did not need crack sealed. Then, of course, this was our max map. This is max and flex seal. I believe in 19 was kind of their first start where they started doing the pressure pave. We had some of that in 19. I don't know exactly which streets off the top of my head, but it'd be the magenta on the screen there. Those were mostly done with pressure pave. And of course, also during that time, sidewalks and trails were part of that 1 cent of sales tax. So we had quite a bit of sidewalk work. I am actually proud to say you can make it all the way from the old, well, it's Medical Lodge now, it used to be Windsor on First Street. You can go all the way downtown on ADA compliant sidewalks, trails, or sidewalks and trails. So you can, awesome. We are expanding because a lot of the west side of town does not have any sidewalks currently. So we are expanding the walkability of our community, which leads to hopefully healthier, more active citizens. So. All right. Now to your question, what's the future of streets in Coffeyville? Of course, we don't want to put all our kids in one basket. We're always going to want to do maintenance as well as work towards the new construction. So here's kind of the current and future reconstruction projects that we're looking at. Of course, they are, like I said, this is reconstruction. It's the more expensive avenue, but we're to that point. We spent the last 10 years doing a lot of preservation to be able to evaluate our streets and start really working towards, picking the streets that are going to be the most traveled to start, and then slowly working our way down the list to get those, to be able to, hopefully, this is not a next week, next year thing. This is going to be decades. We have decades of debt, so to speak, on putting towards our streets. So it's going to take decades to get back without a lot of grants, but we have Grant Writer, and she's doing a great job. We're pushing for grants. So Buckeye, we're looking at doing this year. We're going to start putting together the bid packets to go out for that. You can see there, First Street, a chunk of that. The reason we stopped at that point And these, of course, are estimates. We've gone through a program that I built for doing estimates that works really well if you have current numbers. So we tried to get current numbers, and so some of these numbers are from last year versus, well, there's a lot have been changing across the board for all construction materials, including streets. So asphalt and oil's bouncing all over the place. So those are going to be pretty good estimates within the, for these projects. Of course, Buckeye, we stopped at Grant because water lines. That's part two of some of the issues with our streets. Water lines under the street. If the water line's under the street, you blow out, you have to tear the street up. And it's a perpetual cycle. I don't know how many times in the past you've seen where you start, okay, we've got a brand new street, 2 weeks later, you got back there with a
Ninth Street.
backhoe. Yeah, 9th Street was one. And 9th Street was actually, it was a gas line.
Yeah.
There was old abandoned gas line leaking water everywhere. Because where they were put in service lines, they cut the gas line, and the pipe was just, had water in it from rain, and it was leaking out, and we couldn't figure out what was going on.
So you have Buckeye there from 1st to 11th, so that, what is going to be done to Buckeye between 1st to 11th?
That is a planned mill and overlay. Was that 4 inches? 4 inches off, 4 inches back.
Okay, and that is on the board to be done this year?
Yep, we are working on putting together, starting to put together those bid packets to send out, start getting those prices in. You have to, a lot of asphalt work, it requires tonnage. And so if you don't have the proper tonnage, they don't even look at it.
Right.
So we're working to make sure we have that proper tonnage and figure that out. That's where, like I said, Buckeye is an option. 8th Street, there you have 11th to Elm. So that's a huge chunk of 8th Street. That was what I want to say 2 meetings ago,
Yeah.
that we came for a grant.
Yeah.
We should hear about that grant in June, June or July, because KDOT's never on time. But so that's, hopefully we'll get that.
So the Overlook project there, what is North Terminus?
Northbrook.
So that would be from 1st Street to Northbrook. What about the portion of the street from 11th to 1st Street?
So that one's from,
That's the bottom one.
That's the
yeah,
bottom.
that's the bottom one. So the bottom one is, yeah.
Thank you.
If you look at from kind of 1st Street North, if you look at 1st Street North, it's in decent
So
shape.
it's split into two
We feel like
projects.
we could do just an overlay on that because you don't have the issues with the filling up curbs, because it's all ditches. It's in good condition. We feel like we can pull off an overlay and get some good life out of that.
So just to give everybody an idea of how quickly these kind of things escalate in price, about 12 years ago, Commissioner Faulkner and I were city commissioners, and there was discussion of a complete rebuild of Overlook. I believe it was from 8th to 1st, and that was going to be $1 million. We were told $1 million. And now, I mean, you just add you add 3 more blocks to get from 1st to 11th, and it's 1.7 million, and that's not even a full rebuild. And my bigger point here is, the longer we should have bit the bullet back then and found the money to do it. It was a mistake on my part not to push for that. And every year that we wait, especially if it's a year where the last couple of years we've had a really significant increase in, prices going up, inflation, you end up paying for this stuff double or triple if you wait too long. And I've never wanted to go out and get in a hurry to borrow $10 million to do something, but we might need to be open-minded about I know we have a sales tax that's currently being used right now for the hospital, that's going to come free, I believe, in the near future. And the hospital, I was on the commission 20 years ago when that sales tax was offered, as was the sales tax to the school district. And in both instances, they were both told by the mayor at the time, unequivocally, those sales taxes are a one and done deal. Do not come back and expect that money to be extended for school or hospital purposes because we knew we were going to need to, we were going to have some, let's be honest, when we pledged sales tax money for for non-city issues like the hospital and buildings, the elementary school, we delayed some city stuff. And we knew that that's the trade-off that we were making at the time 20 years ago. And I asked for this to be put on the agenda tonight because I think that we need to start positioning ourselves for the renewal of that sales tax so that we can
actually
have the amount of money that we're going to need to do, because there are, obviously a lot more streets than these that need
Yeah, so
dire
we have,
attention.
let me jump through.
There you go.
Give me a second here. So we actually have currently coming up in 2024, we need to have an approval to extend the transportation non-highway sales tax.
Yeah.
Or our budget will get cut in half,
Yeah.
which will just double the time it takes to try to get caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
one
that's
point.
one of the things that we're moving forward, getting planned, putting
Yeah.
together those,
Getting the ducks lined up.
So I want to make a
Yes.
couple of points. The hospital half cent is used for their ambulance services. So that's a much broader discussion that we need to have, because I've met with the hospital multiple times on this, and I think all of us need to address that in an open session, but with the hospital, because if the city takes on it, the ambulance service is a loser. I mean, if the city were having to take that on, it's a seven-figure deficit position, even if we got the half-cent sales tax. So I would just tell you, Don, it's a much broader discussion, so I think we need to have that. Now, when it comes, you're right about streets. I mean, we're paying for legacy debt, so we don't have to be bound to this 1.6 million. And I agree with you. We need to be spending 3 million, and we can. So, and you're right, every year we wait, we keep thinking, I'm being told construction costs aren't coming down.
No.
And so every year we wait, it's going to cost us more. Now, Thomas said we didn't have a 10-year plan. We actually inherited a 10-year plan that was good through 2034. And it was doing the same way we've done it 20 years, and that we know that doesn't work. So we're looking at different ways to do it.
It didn't budget float either. It was.
Right.
Right. I mean, it was not a good plan. So we've eliminated that plan. We're rethinking everything, and we're thinking the materials we use. It's crazy that you can put a man on the moon, but you're still putting asphalt down on streets like you did 50 years ago.
So the flying cars.
At just way more cost. So you'd think technology, but technology is getting better, and you're seeing it in some of the materials. So, I just think we got to think different and work through better ways to do it and be more efficient with the money we spend. But look, you're not going to get it done with 1.6 million. You could double the sales tax, but the city's in a position to do more, and we should. And we got to stop getting behind. We got to catch up and start getting ahead on an annual basis. So that's the plan.
We're
wanna
always
be
looking
clear
for
about
grants,
something.
and we're always moving towards grants. So
Yeah, grants are going to make it happen.
Just one more thing before,
Yeah.
then we'll get back. So like I said, one thing we're adding is asphalt rejuvenator. These are the streets that have been built brand new, ground up. Some of them 8, 9 years ago. We haven't touched them yet. This needs to happen. This is going to happen this year.
Okay.
Because we're not going to continue the pattern of, okay, we build a street, now we're just going to let it sit and do nothing.
This is to extend the life of those.
So this
I
is
think
what's called an
that's the deal.
asphalt rejuvenator.
You got to spend money on maintenance.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
is called an asphalt rejuvenator. This is something that Coffeyville has not seen, to my knowledge, here. So basically what this is it's called Reclamite, as the brand name of it. It comes in, then you shoot it down, and it reacts with the asphaltenes and the chemical compounds within the asphalt to rejuvenate them, bring those back to life, make sure they're stayed flexible so that they continue to cohere together. You don't see sometimes they say that it looks like a brand new street. I say you can still see the gray oxidation, but that's the difference between this versus a fog seal, but also this has a lot more chemical properties that truly help make, it penetrates deeper into versus just having that surface look. And this is a lot cheaper. This is roughly $2 a square yard.
Okay.
So $2 a linear foot. We should have been doing this decades ago on any street that was put in asphalt to make sure that we keep them in good shape. So.
And just for the folks at home that are watching this or listening, or the folks here in attendance, The city, I didn't want this to be brought up to beat up on city staff. You all very simply, year in and year out, have performed what the commissions, the different commissions that have come and gone, have budgeted you to be able to do. You guys don't have a secret money tree out behind City Hall. You're not hoarding the cash for yourself. You know, you guys just simply do what we budget you the money to be able to do. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm being critical of the city staff or the efforts that the city employees have made in fixing the streets or upkeeping the streets. This is something that virtually every town in the country is fighting with right now because these streets are, you know, especially in this part of the country where we have hot weather and cold weather and rainy weather and then dry weather. I mean, these streets really take a beating, and you guys are doing, I firmly believe, everything that you can with what you've been given to work with, and you've been very creative in some instances, and I appreciate that. But I guess what I'm getting at is I just want to see us throw every dollar possible, because we've got to get on top of this at some point, or we're gonna face a point of diminishing return where we'll never ever be able to get on top of it.
Yeah. I do feel, and Bobby Joe can chime in too, the pressure paving max, when we found that is a true game changer. And anybody that sees this out in the world,
because you're buying time, basically.
You are buying time.
Yeah.
On some of these streets, like I said, they looked at them like, we might can do something with it. We give it a try. And that's what we did the first year that when we tried it out, was we picked the absolute worst
I remember that.
streets. And
Because
that
we
was
weren't
the-
real sure
they-
if it was going to work
Yeah.
as advertised. We were real
Yeah,
kind
we're
of
like,
skeptical.
we're going to put you to the test, and,
Yeah.
and they performed beyond our expectations.
Yeah.
Now
So, and that is something that we can come back in and do again and again. You'll see, I will say this, and so like on Overlook, it's getting older and older to where it is time to do something to it. Hopefully we can actually do the full fix and then maintain it, but if not, we can maybe at least do another max coating on it that hopefully gets it to properly stick, do some base repair in those areas. The great thing about the max, once you get to that point when you're doing the surface seals, so you've gone, you could be 16, 17 years old in the street, you've done the reclamite several times. Okay, let's go ahead and seal the street, put a new wear surface on, because at that point your aggregate itself, you're going to start wearing down that aggregate. And so you want to be able to have the stopping power when you want to hit your brakes, you want to be able to stop. So that's where it'll add a brand new wear surface. You can do that. It's 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick, depending on the type of street. So like most of our residential streets, it's 1/4 inch thick. I can do that 2, 3, 4 times, and that's a 12 to 15 year lifespan before I need to come back in and mill it off and start over. And I can either mill it off and start over, or at that point, hopefully, we're at that point, okay, let's fix the street properly and get it back to stage 1 and really move forward with it.
Now we've submitted 2 street grants and a total of over $2 million that we expect to be awarded by June of '24. So, and I feel good about those. I think we'll get at least one of the 2. They're both slightly over $1 million. And every penny we get on that will be going, and it'll be done this year. I mean, as long as we can get bids and contractors, and we think we can, you'll see a lot of progress. But, you know, that the previous 10-year plan we had, we're starting over essentially, but doing it the way it needs to be done, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so you had a list of streets there. I'm going to bring up some. That.
We have a whole nother.
Do you have a whole other list?
We have
a
a
list.
Okay,
huge
because
list.
I'm just,
This
I
is
know you, that's
kinda-
just the start.
So one of the things that, what we've presented, we want to say we can do
Okay,
with,
That much.
we've applied for grants. And if we get grants, that's great. That's just going to extend, that means we can do more.
okay,
But if we can't get grants, I want to say that I can do all those projects
Okay.
within the next 5 to 10 years.
so, you know, there's been a lot of talk about some certain streets here in town, out west, in West Coffeyville, that are
Yep.
this, there's one off of Buckeye that's really bad, I think we all know. I'm just curious, you talked earlier about doing something to streets that can help them survive for another maybe 5
Okay,
years.
so yeah, so you're talking, so the brand name, and there's several of them, but the first one is called the asphalt zipper.
Right.
It will go in, it'll mill up the street, leave it in place. You have options with it. You can actually put cement down and run it back through again, watering that in to just help compact and hold those millings in place. But basically, it takes your street that's doing this and has all the potholes, puts it to gravel, gives you something that you can do with. Because a lot of those streets, especially on the state streets, there's a lot of state streets
Yes.
that it doesn't matter what we try, you can't get a cold patch or anything else to sit in a half minute. It just goes out, it doesn't work. And that's what a lot of those streets are, they are completely shot. And that if you want to be able to truly say, okay, I don't have to really worry about, I need to drive slow because I might throw something up, but I don't have to worry about, big bumps. We can actually maintain that easily enough. And that's not permanent where we're going to leave it that way.
Right.
We did the same thing. We actually did a trial with that on Grant Street from First Street North to the kind of the terminus. I can't remember when, it was done before I started, but we actually finally, 2014, 2015, put the street back in place finally.
Okay.
And that's one of the streets that we have on the list for the rejuvenation, to make sure that we keep that street that we spent the money on in good shape and keeping it moving forward.
And when we used the zipper, we used it as a way to put a base back down.
Okay.
A lot of the streets that you're referring to are the same as Overlook. They were put in a hurry,
Yeah,
without
I
any
know.
bases and minimal asphalt.
Right,
And then time did what time does.
right. And I get that. But I was just curious where some of those lie in your plan? Just because I know when all this, people watching, and then when there's things written up.
All of it kind of
but-
depends, like I said, the 10-year plan that we were handed in late last year to moving forward, it didn't cover anything that
Okay.
we've showed tonight. So we're trying, we're going to put together those things, and we're going to try to move forward and get a full 10-year plan. Hopefully, like I said, and when I say a 10-year plan, I mean a 10-year plan that's not reliant on grants. This is a 10-year plan that we can do. If we can get a grant, it's just going to advance how fast we get something done, and the more that we can do at a time. So that's what we want to focus on. This we can do, and so we're going to try to focus on those main arterials and do whatever we can with the other streets in town to make sure that they're passable, drivable, and not hazardous.
Okay.
We're going to do everything we can on
So
those.
just
Yeah.
your plan with no grants involved, and that way, if we get it, it's just to our advantage.
Yes.
Okay, and I understand. I
Yeah,
get that.
because that way when we present that plan and the citizens vote on it, this coming November,
Right,
they know this will get done, not this is a wish list.
right.
Because the last plan we had, it was heavily reliant on like 1.4 million in grants a year.
Yeah.
And even at that, it didn't budget out, so.
I have a few things, comments on all this. One is we have a half-cent sales tax for the highway only, correct?
No, we have a half-cent sales tax for non-highway, and we have a half-cent transportation sales tax that can be used on the highway for match funds towards those types of grants on the highway, if
Right.
that's what it's deemed to be used as.
And we've talked about trying to get increased funding for the highway going through town from the state, so we wouldn't,
Yeah,
we could use that
we're gonna
money
meet
for
with
other
KDOT,
things.
So, yeah.
You mentioned, I think Buckeye would be in my mind of, and many other streets like First Street from Sycamore Bridge to Overlook. They've been overlaid so many times. And they're raised streets now.
Yep.
So where are you at on thinking maybe they need to be milled off 8 inches and then overlay 4 inches to get them back down to where they should be?
Some of that's, we're looking at some of those options in the future just to see where it's at. A lot of those streets, just to get the drainage to work, we're actually better off to, go ahead, we're raising the street. Okay, we're gonna mill off 2, put in and make sure all the bases put in properly, and we're gonna put the curb and gutter back up, fill in behind the curb, and make sure that that street is now draining efficiently, meets all the requirements. It's not putting any water towards people's houses, anything like that. But instead of milling down, because at this point, it has been overlaid so many times. The reason it's been overlaid so many times is the base is going. So at that point, you're almost more economic and more moving forward for longevity-wise to go ahead and let's just, maybe you come in and you drew like the asphalt zipper, concrete it in, and that's your new base. You make a base that's gonna last, that'll smoke a grader blade when you're trying to lay it in there, and then you put the street on top of that and go ahead and put that new level in and make sure that everything is the proper drainage.
Unfortunately, each street's going to be different, so each
Yeah.
street's going to also get approached differently, and that's also going to depend on, one, budget, and two, the bonus, if there's grants, then you get to do more,
Yeah.
which means you can pick off bigger chunks.
Then we've had some recent projects. I know they were through grants. I'm thinking 9th Street, some
9th
on
Street, 10th
10th,
Street, yep.
5th, 6th, 7th off of Klein.
Yep.
And those were full base.
Yep.
So, going off what you said before, could we have paid the difference, or we didn't budget for that? Why would we make those asphalt? Why didn't we make those concrete and maybe pay the minimal?
Well, at the
Difference.
time,
I'm not
concrete was
sure.
way more than asphalt.
I-
That's narrowed
On the-
dramatically
on
the most
in the
recent
past few
one?
years.
I'm not sure on that one. I don't
I'm
know if the
talking
numbers
just
were
last
done.
year.
Oh,
I
you're
don't know
talking
if the
last
numbers
year,
were done.
okay.
Those, neither one of us were involved in those projects. So.
Okay,
I
could
don't
we
really
do
have an
that?
answer for you,
Or-
unfortunately.
Let's say we get a street with a grant like that on 5th, 6th, 7th off
Yeah.
Klein, and the state grant is budgeted for asphalt. They
So-
won't pay the 5% difference to go concrete. Would we say,
Yeah.
hey,
Well, we should.
We should.
Can
So-
do.
So those grants like that, there should have been the option where we could go either way.
Okay.
I will say that and it's a good strategy to be utilized, concrete intersections, asphalt right-of-ways, or straightaways. It's a very good process because you can, now, yes, asphalt's gonna last, you're gonna have a little more maintenance on it, but you also can come in much easier and mill it off, put it back, and you're back to almost basically a brand new street. Concrete, once you do start hitting that end of life, that is the one drawback, although you've had 4 times the lifespan for the next to no cost. But once concrete starts failing, there's not really okay, I'm gonna come in and mill off 2 inches and put back.
But it's 20
Or
years.
4 inches.
But it's 20 years versus 6 or 7 years.
Well, it's 20 years before you gotta touch it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm talking lifespan, so you're talking 60.
Yeah.
a lot of concrete roads go thoroughly in residential areas, not
Well,
on
and
the
it takes the
highway.
big trucks, you know. that's-
Yeah,
on
the big, and
truck
that's why I
routes,
want to
yeah.
talk about the big
Yeah.
trash trucks that are doing damage to either asphalt or concrete. Next thing is on the highway, and I can think of several places, especially over by, say, in front of Brahms. That's just rough now.
So
And we're
the section,
patching.
the section there in front of Brahms is the only section on 166 that hasn't been touched in the last 10 years as far as with a joint reconstruction plan. We looked at it, we had it in the plans, we pulled it. And why we pulled it is because they were offering us joint reconstruction, and we're replacing 90% of the joints. And so when you replace a joint, you replace it with 2. At 90% of it being replaced, no, that's not the proper, we're throwing money down the drain. Let's replace the whole thing. And that is actually the other grant that we put in for, through the CCLIP plan. So hopefully we'll see that in.
And I do the highway going east or going west from Brahms all the way out to the overpass. I don't know when that was put in, but it has seemed to hold up very well. And so
63.
whoever constructed that,
Yeah, so
you know,
that would've
do
been,
that,
that was
fine.
put in, I believe, in 63.
so how has that's
It's almost
concrete.
60 years. That's
Yeah,
60
it's
over 60 years.
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
It's concrete, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few joint
Yeah.
repairs where you have blowouts.
But that's
yeah.
held up good for 60 years. So how do we replicate that?
Concrete. That is how you replicate it, concrete.
Then
Now,
concrete.
unfortunately, concrete,
Anything else, and you're fine.
concrete today, unfortunately, is not the concrete of
Concrete that
yesterday.
you got
I will
60
say that.
years ago.
It's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
the concrete
Yeah.
today is,
Quality's
has,
lower.
And I've been
Yeah.
to Iowa for work trips and been in certain neighborhoods if I went on a run or something. I know going back 30 years that it looks like those residential streets in that area, because they get a lot of snow and ice, they concrete it. They haven't been touched in 30 years. And they're probably not going to be touched for another 20. It just, they hold up so well. and they go
why-
way beyond
yeah.
20.
Concrete is the way to go. And when I have a lifespan of 20 to 40 years, that is before you touch it. So that, most likely, in 20 years, you're gonna come back, you're gonna blow all the joints out, clean them real good, reseal your joints, and you're gonna be good for another.
And that's why I asked
10
the
to 20
question about
years.
these recent,
Yeah.
very recent street projects we had that were full replacements. Why did we do asphalt?
And so you'll notice that a lot of those, you have concrete swells for your water controls and your turning motions. So it's that other, and it's, like I said, you can come in, so we're gonna start doing the rejuvenator, so we're gonna see the lifespan of concrete out of our asphalt streets moving forward because we're gonna do the proper maintenance on them. But you can also, we are reaching that end of life, or, we're starting to wear that aggregate down to where it's slick and smooth. You can grind it out, come back in, put it in. Where if you grind concrete, you're gonna have 11th Street between Buckeye and Willow.
Yeah.
Or Walnut, right? All the way to Walnut.
But it's less likely to have that on residential streets versus the highway. The highway's getting so much heavy truck
Yeah, you
traffic.
should
Residential
see
streets-
significantly longer life with concrete
Right.
on a residential street.
So we have several areas, and I'm thinking of the plan for maintenance, is we have several areas throughout town where they're old roads, but you've seen where it heaved up the whole curb, and now there's a dip. So how do we go in there, and I've seen some areas, I'm thinking on Tyler Street, but where you replaced, it's an asphalt road, but replace it with concrete for that one heaved up area. But how do we fix, what's the plan for the really bad areas to fix a 20-foot section and redo the curb just in that localized area?
Depending on how bad the street is, we will go in and replace the curb. We'll dig it out on the backside, rebase it, pour a new curb. With a little bit of luck, we go into the street a little bit, 3-4 foot sometimes, the length of what we've replaced, and concrete that.
It's some of the other options on, so, we don't want to go to, because the street's in fairly decent shape, but maybe the edges are having problems holding up. Could be due to the trash trucks, could be due to the fact that they're unconfined because there's no curb and gutter, that type of thing. We can go in, maybe do a 2-inch mill, and then when we go and put in a confinement or a rollback curb, if we want to continue to use ditches, or maybe we do actual full curb and gutter for the area, just depending on the location, depending on the weather, the drainage issues that maybe we're encountering and addressing as well. But then, once you do that 2-inch mill, you put a concrete base under that edge. Your stopping motions, and for like our trash trucks, currently they have the big swing arm, and then you sit there and rock on that outside wheel. So we did this on Wilshire, and we did this on Highland was all concrete though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What was the other street that we did that on?
Is it on 9th and 10th too, didn't they?
I think we
Concrete
did.
curbs?
I think we did.
Concrete
So we actually, you did the concrete, so the concrete actually shoots out 4 foot under the street, and then there's a 2-inch on top of that. And so that provides that
Extra
support,
strength.
the strength underneath it for that track trucks, while you still have that 2-inch wear surface that you can sit there and take off and put on. And that section of concrete is gonna be a full 8 inches thick, in that area as well. So unlike the highway, they came in, between Buckeye and I don't know when this was done, it was before my time. But they came in and they actually ground 2 inches of concrete out and put asphalt on, 2 inches back of asphalt on top. I'm like, okay, that's great. But when that happened, we destroyed the structural integrity of that road. And we've had problems with it ever since. And so we don't ever want to have another issue where we end up doing that. So we want to make sure that when we spend the money, the citizens, that they have something that's going to last, that they can be proud of.
Yes.
Thank you for the detailed report. Would you be able to email that slideshow to me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Before you go, I would like for the citizens to understand just how critical and how important the work is that your staff does, because if I could draw an analogy, you walk into a business and if there's trash and cigarette butts around the front door, there's a subconscious image that's created, these people don't care. But when visitors come in from out of town or new people coming in to try and decide if they're going to live in Coffeyville, as they see less and less blight, Tim, and we're going to be hell on wheels on blight, and the work that your staff is doing, creating a nice visual on the streets, that creates a subconscious image in our new potential residents and potential new business owners that they care. And that's vitally important. I just want to make sure you let your staff know how important the work is that they do. They're not just digging holes and pouring concrete. They're on the front lines of the marketing effort for Coffeyville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up is the city manager's report.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick. So I wanted to give you our new residency hiring update. So we've had 30 applicants from Oklahoma since I think we started in January. We've hired 4. We've got 4 more in testing. We're finally fully staffed at the dispatch, in the dispatch for probably I think Quinn said the first time ever. So we've hired 8 out of 30 applicants out of Oklahoma, and so I think it's being successful. One of them actually moved to Montgomery County.
Awesome.
I won't tell you what town, but they did move to Montgomery County. So I also, while we're talking about hiring out of Oklahoma, I want to introduce you to Marty Cummings. You want to come up and introduce yourself? I'm talking him into moving to Coffeyville, but I'm still working on it.
For the record, the mayor's trying to help too, so. Yeah, like I said, Martin Cummings, I am from Oklahoma. I live in Bartlesville, so I will make sure I stop by Brahms here in Coffeyville on my way home to make sure I get some dinner. But, no, my background is in accounting and finance. I'm an alumnus of BYU and the University of Oklahoma as well. And so,
1 out of 2 is not bad.
Go ahead.
1 out of 2 is not bad.
Just for the record.
Cougars.
Cougars, right up there.
Cougars good.
Okay. You don't hear that much in this neck of the woods. Cougars good, so.
Scholarship.
Anyway, my background is in accounting and finance. More recently, I have been in the private sector, in oil and gas finance more recently. Spent a lot of time everywhere from dealing with things as benign as debt collections all the way up to general ledger accounting and finance. Things I'm particularly proud of touch on economic analysis as well. So not just doing the accounting, but taking the accounting and turning it into actionable insights for our people on the ground and doing operations. So
Awesome.
Happily married, wife, 2 kids. They might be watching. I don't know. They kind of wanted to see if how far I put my foot in my mouth tonight. But I'm really excited to be here. I can't say enough good stuff about the work that Tim has done to try to get things ready for me to come in and to give me a good runway. It's always a little challenging when you have a change in management and direction. And so the team that he's helped put together for me, I can't say enough positive things about them. They have been cooperative. They've humored my silly questions. They've been willing to walk me through everything I've asked for. And so to them, I want to just give them a good pat on the back for what I'm able to do here. So thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Welcome. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome.
So just another update on, I think Jim asked a question about Baker Tilly, and we're using them to help us with budgeting and finance, and as Martin gets his feet under him, and I they've done a real good job with the city's used them many times in the past. They do full finance for a lot of municipals. So we do have them under contract, and we'll keep them under contract probably through the budget period, or at least for the next few months. And we've started the budget process and conversation, and we're not just going to focus on expenses, we're going to focus on revenue as well, because I think there's revenue opportunities in multiple businesses, and that's going to be a big part of the focus, because we really haven't done that in the past. We do have 9 grants actually submitted. We've got a total of probably 25 grants, but 9 have been submitted that we're just waiting on the results.
What's the value of those grants?
The 9 is, let's see here, I got to do some quick math. I would say 6 or 7 million. The total grants are 20 million. Now, a lot of those are big projects. There's a 7 million street light grant. There's a big transformer grant. So, we may or may not get those, and if we do, it'd be great for the city, and we'll use it. So, that's moving forward really well. I mean, the idea of hiring a grant writer, I think, is working out really well. We are moving forward with demolitions. I think, Matt, we're on our second list. I don't know. Okay. We met with G&G and Mark Muller, and those are the 2 demo folks we've used for many years. They're both really good. They came into the office. They gave us ideas on how, good ideas on things we could change and cutting the cost. But, we are going to move forward. I mean, the more I drive around, the more I think maybe 40 or 50 isn't enough, but it's a start. So, I think, every week, I feel really good and really optimistic. I think we can solve the housing issue. I think, every problem we have, streets and roads included, are curable, but they're not going to be, we got legacy debt, so they're going to be cured over time, but they're going to take 50 years to cure. We can move quicker than that. So many of these are curable in months, so the city employees are working really hard, and we're making progress.
Okay. Great.
All right, thanks. Comments from commissioners?
I don't have anything at this time.
Not this time.
There've been on Edgewood, your street, right?
Yeah.
Edgewood is the north-south neighborhood street that runs right up to the back. It runs right up to the back side of the bowling alley and the zone, or whatever it's called now, the bar and grill up there. There's a little, I don't know if that's an official curb cut right there, but I have had a number of residents along Edgewood ask me if the city could cut off that access, because, and I actually happened on this past Saturday night to be at one of these people's house to witness this between midnight and 1 in the morning, and that is like a little miniature Autobahn of people zipping very quickly up to the bar and then back down Edgewood.
Because they leave the bar.
Presumably to avoid driving on Woodland, Buckeye, and Klein. And if there's a way that our wonderful city employees could cut off that access so as to force the patrons of the bar to utilize Woodland and then one of the arterial roads north-south through the city, these people would really appreciate it.
I'll just say a few things.
Yeah, because you live on that road.
Well, I live right next to it.
Yeah.
When I first moved into my house, that driveway was grass.
Yeah.
It was not.
Yeah, I
And it
think
wasn't
that's a
being-
reasonable request. So
at some
Matt,
point,
what
it
would
just
what would
started
that
being
take?
driven over.
I don't know if I can take access away from the public street, but I can look into it.
All right.
Well, I thought
I don't think
we're
that's an
supposed to
access, I think
have.
it's a created access.
It's a
isn't it?
created access to driving over what was grass, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you had to have an approved driveway.
I don't think there's a curb cut, I think they're jumping the curb.
They are.
Okay.
It's one of those flat kind of curves.
Well, there's no curb there. It's see where the curb ends? It's about 30 feet to the right of that driveway. The curb stopped. But if there was a curb that went, it wouldn't be a driveway there. But
Yeah,
I can
we're getting the
attest-
same request from that senior development, by the way.
Okay, so I
think
can
that's-
attest that at 1:30 in the morning, I've heard cars whiz by at 50 to 60
You
miles
shouldn't
an hour.
drive that fast.
My mailbox has been ran over twice. My neighbor's mailbox has been ran over. My neighbor's trailer that was parked in the street has been ran
Yeah,
into.
yeah, you know, that, we'll see what we can do. If we can solve it, we will.
So that's just my experience with it.
That's all I had. Did you have anything? How long of an executive session were we going to need? How long?
I would say 15 minutes.
Do
20.
you all want a
Yes.
5 or 10 minute break first? or
Short
no?
break.
Sure.
Yes.
I don't care. I don't mind going right into it. I'm fine.
Move to recess to executive session for the purpose of a preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property as permitted by the acquisition of real property exception to the Open Meetings Act as set forth by KSA 75-4319B5 to include the interim city manager, city attorney, director of building inspections, director of housing, and director of public works, following a 10-minute break, and to reconvene at the commission meeting room at 8:30.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Commissioner Maples to recess to executive session for the purpose of a preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property as permitted by the acquisition of real property exception to the Open Meetings Act as set forth in KSA 75-4319B5 to include the interim city manager, city attorney, director of building inspections, director of housing, and director of public works to reconvene in the commission room at 8:30 p.m. Mayor Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Now re-adjourn from executive session. No action has been taken or will be taken.
Were you wanting to go over the sales tax?
We can,
We'll wait on that one. till
See,
next
I'm
time.
paying attention.
There you
I'm
go.
learning.
Thank you.
Anybody want to review
I was
the,
Jumping that gun.
I was ready for it.
we have the
Printed
golf
it out.
course report and the police department stats. Do we want to review that, anybody?
No, I think maybe next time.
Okay.
The one comment I'd make on that tax revenue is there was a donut hole in that half-cent sales tax. That's probably impacting that some, so that started that started getting collected in April.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Right.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Motion is made by Commissioner Edwards, seconded by Commissioner Maples to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands?